Not naming names, but definitely not pulling any punches. Former President George W. Bush stepping out of retirement for a moment, at least, to take on the Trump worldview. Is this former president the new face of the Republican resistance? The panel tonight, Betsy Woodruff is here, politics reporter for the Daily Beast. Ryan Williams, former spokesman for Republican Mitt Romney. Democratic strategist Mike Morey is here, and CNN political commentator and former Republican Lieutenant Governor of South Carolina, Andre Bauer. Great to see all of you. What a surprise. Not what I was expecting, that the topic du jour would be George W. Bush, Betsy. Remarkable comments from the former president. Who is the president's audience? Who is he speaking to today?
It seems directed at sort of moderate, middle-of-the-road American voters, particularly Republicans, who feel that their party has left them behind. In the White House, there is not a particularly strong voice for the Republican coalition that put George W. Bush was a function as a defense of globalization. We live at a time when, of course, the Stephen Millers and Steve Bannons of the world have argued that America needs to take kind of a Buchananite position, take a step back from the world, let in fewer immigrants, become involved in fewer international trade deals, fewer multilateral agreements with other countries, such as NATO. This speech that George W. Bush gave was essentially pushing back against all of that, arguing for free trade, arguing for a large American footprint, a lot of American influence in the rest of the world, essentially making the case that globalization is good. And he's the first person really to make that argument since Trump's been elected on such a public space and as such an influential voice.
And why, Ryan? Why do you venture to guess now? I mean, George W. Bush, of any of the former presidents, had made it such policy to not get into the political debates. I mean, he went dark when Barack Obama took office, and he didn't say anything during the campaign or in any of the political debates really yet, especially on this level. Why now?
I think he thinks it's really important to do it now. In his mind, I think we've reached a tipping point, and he felt the need to break, 8+ years of silence on the political front to make a statement. It wasn't a direct critique of the president. It was more of a critique of the worldview that some of the president's supporters have put forward, and I think he felt he needed to add his voice to this conversation.
You don't think that was a direct critique of the president?
It wasn't he didn't mention him by name. I think it was more of a worldview critique than a personal critique. It wasn't a personal attack like we see from the president sometimes when he personally attacks people. I think he wanted to do it in a way that was classy, that was kind of broad, sweeping in its kind of goals to kind of condemn this ideology and contrast it with globalization, his view that he put forward when he was president. But will it have an impact? I don't really think so. I think it'll appeal to some moderate Republicans, but it will not have any impact on the president's supporters. They're no fans of the Bushes and the politics of the past, and I don't think it will change many minds, unfortunately.
Well, and I do wonder, maybe not of the president's supporters, so Ryan's answered my next question. I'm still going to ask it anyway because I can. Does it have an impact, Andre? Do you think these words on the president himself? Should it?
I don't think it has any impact on the president himself. I think the president is kind of dug in with what he's going to do. He's going to continue to fight the establishment, continue to fight what he thinks is putting America first, and that's not what a lot of the establishment thinks, and that's why he's having a little bit of a fight in Washington, because a lot of them are still thinking.
But get beyond the buzzwords, though, because I think the establishment would definitely, the establishment, if you will, definitely puts America first. It's the America first in comparison to what? I mean, it's America first versus being the leader in the globe and leading by example. These are two different worldviews, but continue.
Well, folks like me are just fed up with it. They want to see us take care of the people in this country before we continue to take care of the rest of the world. They want to see us live within our means. They want to see us quit spending more than we take in. They want to see us reduce the debt, which didn't happen under that president.
Andre, where do you see examples that President Trump is doing that?
He's standing up for what he believes in. Things like the national anthem. Folks like us, folks like myself that think there is a point of reverency during the national anthem where we all come together. And he's supported that. And before, most folks wouldn't take a stand on that. They wouldn't talk about it in a
pretty sure President Bush supported the national anthem.
I'm pretty sure, Ryan. I think. But okay. Okay, finish your thought.
So you're seeing somebody that's got some backbone to fight the establishment, and you're getting pushback now from the old guard.
Respond to that, Mike, because I know you are such a fan of George W. Bush as the Democrat on the panel. But when it comes down to it, Donald Trump, as we played earlier, he ran against this worldview that George W. Bush is touting. Democrats don't agree with George W. Bush's worldview. So where do you land on this? Is this useful, helpful? What do you think?
Two things. First and foremost, George W. Bush is responding in the way, no, was it a direct attack on Donald Trump by using name? No. Is it the way you critique someone as a statesman? Yes, and he did just that. So let's not confuse what he did up there and what he was trying to do. But two things here. One is George Bush's, and this entire speech was about putting America first, saying to the President of the United States and the rest of the country that, in fact, you know what putting America first is? It's making sure that if a foreign power is trying to divide your nation internally and tear it apart at the seams, you call it out. You acknowledge it. But I also will say this, we are about a year away now from midterm elections, and here is the highest profile Republican outside of the President of the United States, the last elected Republican president, who is now taking a very public and high-profile swipe at the existing president. You have senators like Bob Corker, who have been out there criticizing the president. You have John McCain, who threatened subpoenas today. I think what you're seeing is that a year before the election, this, whether it's establishment or not establishment, more and more members on Capitol Hill and the Republican Party are starting to say to themselves, you know what? We've got to start talking out against this guy. We got to stand up to this guy. We got to call him out when necessary, because their hides are going to be the ones on the line next year.
I also think that's an interesting point. It's not just George W. Bush. It's George W. Bush in isolation. If you take George W. Bush's comments with John McCain's comments, Betsy, with Bob Corker, his stance, where Jeff Flake is, and the things he's been speaking out about, what do you think the goal is, right? Because do you think they're rather than just standing up to defend what they believe is the worldview that America should pursue, are they trying to get other people? I don't know. I don't know how to say this. To give people a safe space to do the same.
Well, I think it portends that's what's coming. Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead, Betsy.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing is the unfolding of a fight that's been going on for the last 2 years, which is a tension over what it means to be a Republican. I'm sure folks can tell you, I talk to Republicans frequently who look at the state of the party right now and are confused. They think it doesn't make sense to them that the things that Donald Trump stands for and advocates for, with a few exceptions, are so diametrically opposed to the George W. Bush Republican Party that there's a significant chunk of Republican voters who have trouble making sense of this change that's happening. And what McCain and Corker and George W. Bush are doing is essentially articulating a defense for the Republican Party as it once was. There's a sense
that's the key, though, Betsy, right? As it once was, but is it the future? And that's what Andre is getting at, because there's a chunk of the Republican Party who says the ideals that we stand for have not been listened to for a very long time, and that's what they get now with this president. That's what this election was about.
For sure. And what's important about that is that some of the core issues that Trump fought for, George Bush would never stand.
That's exactly right. Guys, stand by. Andre, I hate when you're on Skype because we can't get you. There is such a delay, but I still love you. It's not your fault. Stand by.